Okay, so I'm going to jump back to Chief Financial Officer's report, because then we'll be talking about the budget. So Tim, you want to talk about yours first?
Yeah, the results for the month of July, our revenue, our total revenue was just under $5 million. Again, that's because of the August 1st due date for property taxes. We received over $4 million in real estate taxes. I also highlighted in the report some of the other more significant items. We collected $266,000 in fees at residency at the 2 days we had in residency in July. We have the donation from Airmark of $165,000. The settlement from J.E. Morris of $87,000 was included. And we received special education and transportation reimbursements that were actually due in fiscal 15, but we received them in July of this year. So, again, total revenue just under $5 million, which is 18% of our budget. The one thing that I also highlighted was that the rental revenue for the cell tower, Sprint made a payment for the entire year. AT&T and Verizon just make monthly payments, but they sent us a check for the entire year for the rental. And the registration fees were all put into one account as we've done in the past, and that money will be reallocated to the other accounts as we go along. The expenditures for the month were $2.7 million. The significant items there were $595,000 on the capital project, and also the purchase of the Chromebooks for the one-to-one program. Our operating fund balances, $18,892,000. That's an increase of $1.9 million from the beginning of the month. Also included in the report some of the results for fiscal 2015. I detailed a number of the revenue items that were over budget, some of them that were under budget, as well as the expenditures. There were a couple of questions with regard to expenditures that were over budget. One had to do with the substitute cost. We were about $50,000 over budget. Part of the reason for that was the increases in maternity leaves that we had, as well as the fact that we had one of the paraprofessionals that resigned sometime around the middle of the year. We couldn't find a replacement for, so we had a substitute in there for the entire year. And there was one other item. Security. When we changed personnel in the athletic office, we had security. But just to note that when we do, especially these maternity leaves, and we're bringing in substitutes, a lot of these teachers that are paid towards the higher end of the salary schedule are actually saving money, even though the substitute budget is being increased. We're saving money on the budgets for those particular department salaries. And there was also a question regarding the summer school. Was $16,000 over budget, and the question there was that most of the programs require reimbursement. The reimbursements are on the revenue side. This is on the expenditure side. And as we've talked about in the past, on the revenue side, we start receiving money in May for a lot of these summer programs. We receive money in May and June, and then again in July. So the receipts, the revenue is split over 2 fiscal years as opposed to 1.
Yeah, but we've asked you this before, and again, the way you laid it out, that makes sense, but you did check, there's a way for you to check between the fiscal years and see, did we actually recover our summer school cost the way that you asked us to approve it?
Yes.
Because when I just look at this and see the line item, the expenditures are over budget, then it leads me to believe, because there's no other footnote, no additional information, that we didn't collect what we said we were going to collect.
No, we keep separate spreadsheets on all those programs during the summer. We keep track of the number of students, how much is collected, because it all comes through the business office. We track the expenses that, for example, in the athletics that the coaches put through, and we don't pay any of the coaches or any of the other people until we have all those expenses accounted for. We allocate money towards the trainers, and we allocate money towards the facilities.
In the past, we've given a report on summer schools. That happened in September once all PO purchase orders are cleared?
We do that in September once all of the expenses and everything are cleared, and we compile all of those individual spreadsheets into one spreadsheet and report it to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a number of the summer sports programs where we haven't paid out the coaches at all yet. because we haven't gotten all the numbers. We haven't been able to verify all the numbers yet. We don't have everything. So no, we do make sure that before we pay them, we account for everything. And
Thank you, Tim.
Tim, quick, remind me, the township treasurer charges a fee on expenditures or revenues?
Revenues.
revenue.
That's where we got hit by that fee. on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
8
yeah,
million.
yeah, I'm just, okay, so in the case of when we do these out-of-the-box type of things, like district quest revenues, and we're grossing it up against the expense, they're taking it on the 89, not on the net number, because we have 89 in revenue, but we're also, we have 89 in expenditure. So they're charging us on the 89 number, right?
Correct.
So does it make sense, even though that's not the way I would like accounting to happen, is to show a net number in the revenue, and then when they charge us on the net number?
They charge what runs through their account revenues, right?
Right, well, I mean, we're receiving payments from those districts, which obviously becomes.
Right,
revenue.
but to reimburse Quest.
Right, we'd have to be netting the,
I know, it's not
Expenses
the way
against
I like
that.
to do
It's
that,
not-
but if we're gonna save X percent,
Well, his point is, everything you do to raise revenues, the township gets a percentage of it, and they don't do anything extra.
and it's something, so what's caused, the problem is now that 89 cost us money.
8.9, yes.
Right, because we
89.
took $89,000 and we reimbursed Quest for it, and then we have the separate line item for the commission, right?
Mhm.
But we show revenue of 89 and we show expenditures of 89, but now the township grabbed a percentage, and now we lost money on that.
Well, we
I
get
don't
a
think-
I know, but
commission.
it
Hold on,
cut down our commission.
Right.
Oh, Mike, what do you got to say?
I don't think they take a percent of the 89. It's just that our total revenues include the 89 compared to everyone else.
Right,
Correct.
so they get a percentage of it.
So they're getting a percent of it.
Well, one way, another way of looking at, I think the way Gary's saying is, maybe it would only matter for that,
But
rather
it's,
than,
but
rather
it's in
than.
other stuff too. I mean, we're managing age group gymnastics, right?
Right.
So they're taking a cut of that.
Facility rentals.
Facility rentals, they're taking a cut of that.
So let me ask you a question. Let me throw this out to you. Is there any way that we can go to the township saying that you're doing it on the revenue side, but these type of programs are not,
Because we have corresponding expenses
Yeah.
against these.
can we talk to Shrampus about it, see what's going on?
We'll get as far as we
Like-
did when he talked about the
All right.
89.
I can talk to them.
That's our
I don't
fee
think that's-
structure.
I think
Yeah.
that's the fee structure that's in place for every
But if we
district.
netted it against the revenues, then he's gonna look at the total revenues and he's gonna say, that's zero now, and then you see, right? And you're gonna get zero.
Well, everybody nets
Yeah.
the revenues against their expenses though, too.
No, I'm saying is to put so don't gross up the revenues.
Or,
So with that 89 line is gonna be zero.
or the other alternative is you have, the districts pay Quest directly instead of running it through us, and just give us the commission.
I think
Then we
so.
kinda lose
Well, we have
control
to
of
have-
that.
Right,
Yeah,
we
you
lose
don't wanna-
control.
Part of it is
Right.
having an intergovernmental agreement
Right.
with those districts, especially
Yeah, and you don't wanna
District
lose
95,
control, you
that-
wanna
Right.
come
It has to
It's
be that way.
easier administration for them, they don't wanna write two checks.
Well-
I mean, so think about it, it's just ridiculous that, now that 89 of expense is now 90, and and we only got 89, so.
The other thing would be
revenue.
interesting to see is, just like with Kristen with the 3 days and the attendance report, is how much of that 89 do they really, does it come out to be $800? Does it come out to be?
Well, what is it? It's
Well,
12 checks a
it's
year.
actually,
that's-
no, the 89 is the number that's over budget. The total revenue
Well,
is
I
$400,000.
understand. So
What
but-
percentage do they get? A quarter or something?
What percentage?
What
does it-
percentage
Right.
does the?
No, they take the total revenue from every district, and then they allocate it, and they say, okay, Riverside, Brookfield, your total revenue as a percent of the total revenue for all the
Right.
districts is
So that's our part of it.
7% or whatever, and that's our part of the bill.
And we collected 400,000, right, of that?
400,000 on the
Yeah,
food service.
I know, it was 89 over, but we had 400,000 of expense too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mike, you have any questions on this?
I would say if you do the math, this is got to be a very small number, because they're collecting $20 million for us. Now they're collecting $20,089,000. That's our numerator over the denominator. That percentage change is probably very small against their total expenses.
True.
True.
Understand, but 400,000 with Quest, how much is age group gymnastics, how much is, nickels start adding up to some real dollars here.
Yeah, and then the other schools start doing the same thing if they have some kind of program that they think should be treated similarly, and all of a sudden we're spending a lot of time on this. I would just kind of, if you do a mathematical computation, I don't know that this would make a lot of money, a lot of difference. But something we can look into.
Okay, let's move on to cell tower contracts.
That was a request at the last board meeting, was to give you the length of the cell tower contracts we have with the three companies, so I listed those. And there was also a question regarding the credit card revenue, and I noted that we collected $398,000 last year on credit cards and paid a fee of $14,620.
Well, I just had to pay my first tuition payment for my son's college, and if you pay by credit card, they charge you a
A
fee.
convenience fee. That's the
So
reason why I
everybody
raised it.
does it now. Why don't we
So we-
just
Exactly,
get
that
what the
was-
offset is?
That's
Tim
what
and
I was
I-
gonna bring up as
Tim and
a
I
future thing to consider a convenience fee, because when I was sitting here at registration, I had my credit card out, or I had my checkbook, and I said, well, you know what, I need to give Tim his coffee cup, so I wrote a check as opposed to a
Oh.
credit card.
We, Tim and I have discussed, we got a couple ideas, and we're gonna discuss next at Finance Advisory Council.
That's fine.
Obviously, we have a year until our next,
Yeah.
but
Okay,
budget,
budget.
or do you need to get into any of the dollars? Budget, right? There were no other questions?
There was one on construction financial
Oh.
report, was that
There
answered?
was one on that.
Page 71.
It shows, that shows the site and engineering costs going over budget. The majority, those expenses in 2015, the $37,000, had to do with the permitting that we had to do, the work that we had to do with Village of Brookfield for the permitting.
Zoning, I mean?
And zoning, yeah. But those items on that bottom group of expenditure items, there really isn't any kind of a budget set for those kind of things, other than the legal, where we established a budget this year of $100,000. Most of those were expenses we had last year, and the budget numbers were just plugged in at what the actual expenses were.
So should we
last year.
put where it says
Yeah.
fiscal year, I'm trying to look at this, engineering on the second page?
Yeah, engineering's on page 71, it shows engineering, site work and engineering.
So you have 37,629 for a budget. Really, that should be zero.
Correct. For any number of them, it should be zero. I mean, advertising, we didn't budget anything for advertising when we set the budget at the beginning of last year.
But we got
It's just
140-something
spent
thousand.
10,000, so that's the number I plugged into the budget. But you could really zero out a lot of those budget numbers because they really aren't real.
That's a good enough explanation, Tim. I forgot. But we plugged those numbers.
We've just been trying to keep every
I
dollar spent.
understand, yeah.
Gotcha.